The NBA draft is, for many teams, a time that represents hope for the future of their franchise, especially if they're picking early on in the lottery. By nature, the best players from each class tends to be the first players off the board selected. However, the draft is far from a perfect science, and every year we see plenty of sleeper picks break out, along with a few guys highly regarded that end up being busts, disappointing everyone. Today we'll be focusing on the latter of those two options, and while it's never a conversation we want to have, today we will be addressing the fact that it seems like the time has come to officially admit that these young NBA players just will not be living up to the hype that they came into the league with. We'll be talking about 4 players in particular, along with an overview of what they were supposed to be according to draft scouts when they got picked, compared to why they have struggled as much as they have. Before we start though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as not only does it help out a ton, but I would also very much appreciate it. Before we start though, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. PrizePicks is the perfect service for all of us basketball fans here because when you're involved, it makes watching games every night so much more fun and engaging. Basically, it's an application that provides you with lines on all kinds of individual player props, such as points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers made, amongst others, and you simply have to choose whether you believe they will record over the set amount in the line or under the set amount in the line. Make your selections, wager however much you want to, and if your picks hit, you can win some big money. For some picks that I'm looking at making for today's slate of games, I'm thinking of going with Lauri Markkanen to score over 16.5 points, Zach LaVine to score over 23.5 points, and De'Aaron Fox to dish out over 5.5 assists. If this sounds at all intriguing to you, then go use the link down in the description of the video to sign up today, and use promo code REFERENCE to receive a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The first young NBA player that I believe it's time to admit defeat on is Frank Ntilikina of the Dallas Mavericks. Ntilikina played the first 4 years of his career as a member of the New York Knicks, and in those 4 seasons, Knicks fans so badly wanted him to become the point guard that they could move forward with, but it just never happened. At the time of the draft back in 2017, scouting reports were praising his size, athleticism, defensive potential, playmaking ability, and three-point shooting, and while the defensive side of things translated to a certain degree, his offensive production has never been anything more than inconsistent at best and a struggle at worst. He's a career 5-point-per-game scorer, he's never shot over 40% from the field, and his decision-making and ability to create for others never developed like scouts hoped it would back when he was an 18-year-old prospect getting scouted overseas. He signed with the Mavericks hoping to bolster their backcourt and get a fresh start on a new team, and the fit seemed ideal because of the Mavericks' need for defensive improvement. However, his role on the team is as a guard that occasionally comes off the bench for defensive purposes, while also getting the occasional DNP coach's decision, meaning that he doesn't play at all. The next young player it may be time to give up on reaching their full potential is Kevin Knox of the Atlanta Hawks. This is going to be a painful video for Knicks fans to watch because Knox is yet another failed New York Knicks draft pick, having been taken 9th overall in 2018. As a 6'9" scorer by nature, he drew comparisons to guys like Kevin Durant at their most bold and Tobias Harris by the reasonable, but unfortunately he never came close to either of those two players' levels. The reality of what Knox has been much more grim, as his scoring output has declined every year while his shooting efficiency has been horrendous year in and year out. Last year, his one saving grace was that he was an above-average three-point shooter, but this year he's shooting a mere 28% from deep, so there's not much else worthy of much praise in his game. So many metrics point to him being the worst or one of the worst NBA players overall, as he's a completely inept defender, he's by no means someone who makes plays for others, and he can't create offense for himself at a reliable enough rate. He got traded to the Hawks this year, but he only really plays during garbage time, and that seems to be his fate for the rest of his career, barring any major changes. The next young player it's probably time to give up on reaching their full potential is Jarrett Culver of the Memphis Grizzlies. Culver was the 6th overall pick in the 2019 draft because he was viewed as the jack-of-all-trades prospect that can give you balanced production across the board. Bleacher Report compared him to Jimmy Butler before he got picked because of the way he played, and in theory that kind of comparison would have made sense based on what he was as a prospect if he ever came into his own, but now in his 3rd season, his production has done nothing but decline over time. The Timberwolves originally hoped he could be the glue in their lineup, doing the little things that help teams win, while players like Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell lead the way, but unfortunately none of the things that he showed in college really translated. His spot-up shooting was one of his bright spots at the time, yet he's been a career 29% shooter from 3 in the NBA, he only averages 1 assist per game despite being advertised as a potential secondary playmaker, and after getting traded to the Grizzlies, he's basically become an end-of-bench option, rarely playing at all. Sure, the Grizzlies are one of the best teams in the league right now, so they're not prioritizing the development of project picks like him, but if he has to go to a 3rd team in 4 years to finally develop into a capable contributor, it seems safe to say that he isn't going to be a viable starting small forward anytime soon. And finally, the last player on this list today that I think it's time to admit defeat on is Josh Jackson of the Sacramento Kings. Josh Jackson was taken 3rd overall in the 2017 draft, 1 spot ahead of Jason Tatum, but due to a variety of on-court struggles and off-court issues, his career has just never taken off as expected. Josh Jackson was called the next Kawhi Leonard potentially at one point because of his build as a wing player, his defensive potential, and his raw yet promising offensive skill set reminiscent of a young Kawhi Leonard, yet the reality of what his career is becoming is the opposite. Josh is on his 4th team in 5 seasons now, so the idea of him getting a fresh start elsewhere to try to break out has already come and gone 3 different times to no avail, and now he's at the end of the lowly Kings bench. Defensively, he was never able to use his long wingspan and ideal build to become the elite defender that we hoped he could be, and offensively, his jumper is broken beyond repair. There was a brief period when he was with the Pistons where he looked like he was turning things around, but that didn't last very long, and by the time the Pistons traded him away, he was getting DNPs regularly. He's arguably the biggest disappointment on this list because of where he was drafted and who he was taken before, and while he may be able to salvage a spot in a team's rotation moving forward, we can confidently say he's closer to being a bust than a worthy top 3 pick. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about these players and their futures in the NBA. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.